So hello once again, Mayor Joe Corradino of Pinecrest. We have done this a few times, but the first few episodes, if you will, of us chatting about coronavirus were done with social distancing where we were actually at the same location, and now we're doing this through alternate means. Talk to me about that. And oh, by the way, you had asked if you could use my condominium pool the last few times. No, Joe, you can't. And
No,
that's from the mayor of the county.
Yeah, that's probably a very prudent decision on your part anyway. But I'll take you up on it after we're out of the emergency. So we're getting more distant and distant each time we talk, Hal. Now we're miles apart, which is probably a good thing.
But technology, it's not a good thing, but technology is certainly saving us from not being able to communicate at all. And it looks like you got a great looking beard and mustache and the whole thing going on there.
Yeah, as soon as we declare this emergency order over, I'll get back to normal. But again, I'm not leaving the house, which is the right thing to do these days.
Completely agreed. You know, we've talked about things so many times, but I think that updates on a somewhat regular basis are good. And obviously people are getting their news nationally and about the state, but often we miss that hyper local. So I'm wondering if you can share with us anything that you've heard from the Pinecrest police as to how people are behaving with their order to stay inside their homes.
Well, as usual, Hal, Pinecrest is doing very, very well. We're staying home. That's the most important thing we can do at this point in time. There are still people out and about, but we're really respecting the social distancing. The police don't see many issues at all. And when they do, they're out there to enforce it and politely tell people how to distance appropriately. So it's going well.
How about for you personally? How's being at home? I know that for me, it hasn't actually been that challenging, but you kind of have to remind yourself when you wake up every day, it's going to be inside. Besides, for me, going out and walking as a solo walker.
Yeah. Personally, I think it's going well. I can't say that I necessarily enjoy it, but
Right.
I'm highly productive. I think the workload has amped up 1,000%. We're doing these technological Zoom meetings and those types of things. And so I'm in constant contact with who I need to be in contact, being very productive at work. And I'm getting used to it. I think that's what we're seeing around. You know what? Could be worse places to quarantine than in Pinecrest, Florida, right?
Absolutely. Pinecrest is beautiful. And I learn that every day when I go out walking and I take a different turn down another beautiful street. You're doing some great briefings from official channels of Pinecrest at Village Hall or alternate locations. But that's really somewhat formal. So we're in an informal setting. What would you like to tell people in their living rooms today about what they should be doing and what your personal mindset is toward everybody, staying inside and flattening that curve?
Stay home. It's going to work. We've been doing it now. Gosh, Pinecrest, we did an emergency order on the 12th, along with Miami-Dade County of March. Yeah. We got progressively more stringent because to get compliance on it. People are complying well, but the most important thing we can do is to stay home. That's just it. Now, a couple more, I don't know how long this is going to last. We'll start to see some numbers come back probably in a week. San Francisco is reporting that their stay-at-home orders are having a positive impact. And I think that we were a little, by the time the county announced the actual stay-at-home, didn't really change what they were asking us to do, just put the title "Safer at Home" on it. It'll be a couple of weeks or, about Monday or Tuesday. So just stay home, have patience with it. I think next week we're really going to start to need the patience. The most important thing we can do for our children, for our parents, and for the rest of the community is just that, stay home.
So, we talked a little bit about police and the fact that they're seeing people generally behave, and that's good news that you and I are behaving at home the right way. It seems like businesses have also really figured out their new normal. And I just wanted to put out there, because I was really delighted, frankly, about two things that I've seen. Trader Joe's, one of the local places to go get groceries. I was in line, everybody perfectly spaced out at least 6 feet apart. And while I was in line, a car pulled up with an older gentleman. He kind of rolled down his window and asked somebody from the staff and said, listen, I really can't get out of the car. Can you help me? And I watched them take his order, go inside, pull a bunch of produce and things together, walk out and show him what he could select from what they picked, and then completed a credit card transaction right without him having to leave the car. That is the kind of business acumen and going way beyond the scope of things that's just heartening to see. I also have seen Publix get smarter and smarter about how they're allowing people into their stores. And it has been very orderly. And frankly, the last time that I went, they had everything. There was no shortage of anything, including paper products and some of the cleaning supplies that have been in short order prior. How about you? Have you seen anything business-wise that's good or bad that we need to hear about?
It's all very positive. I think the businesses are doing a great look. It's a very difficult situation, particularly for restaurants and those types of services that depend on people walking into their buildings. And so they're doing their best. They're adapting as well as possible. A lot of deliveries going on right now. And when we are going out into places like Publix for our essential supplies, they're doing a wonderful job. They're patient, they're helpful. And, you know, during one of the hurricanes, somebody from a newspaper asked one of our police officers on the street who was, essentially trying to work monitoring the lines at the gas stations. And the newspaper said, why does it happen? Why is this so orderly? And the police officer reported back, it's the Pinecrest way. And it is. That's Pinecrest. These guys are doing wonderful work out there. All of our citizens. It's very impressive.
Little Pinecrest pride, right?
Yeah, it's great.
Speaking of what's going on locally here, I wanted to ask you and also share with you some of the information I've gotten from the Baptist Health System. Now, obviously, we have a large Baptist Health hospital just outside of Pinecrest. They are saying that they have approximately 200 COVID-19 patients in their care right now. Now, those are hospitals going all the way down to the Keys through, I think, Boca Raton is their system, where they have 2,600 beds. So having approximately 200 patients, that's not an overwhelming number. And I think that's encouraging, frankly. Anything that you've heard about Baptist Health and how they're able to handle this and what they're doing?
Not specifically about Baptist, but through the League of Cities, I'm able to meet with Mayor Jimenez and his team every other day. And we're talking with the guys at the county that are collecting the statistics from all the hospitals cumulatively, and they're putting numbers together, and we understand the critical infrastructure that we have. We know the total number of beds. We know the number of beds that are vacant, that are available for patients. We know the number of ICU beds that are available. We know the number of ventilators that we have. And I think the greatest problem that, say, Italy or New York would have is the lack of ventilators. We also know the number of cases that we have. We're starting to learn the numbers of how many people go into the hospital each day and how many people are discharged each day. And obviously we're tracking the deaths. And I still think it's too early to tell how we're doing. But when you're off for 3 weeks and at least half of the population has been staying home, it's got to have a positive impact on the numbers one way or the other. I'm hoping in the next week we'll start to see a trend. I looked at some interesting stats today and measured them against the Florida stats. Miami-Dade County has got about 33% of the cases statewide. The interesting part is that we have about 17% of the hospitalizations and maybe 15% of the deaths, which means that we're measuring up pretty well thus far. But it's just time, Hal. We just gotta take our time.
Speaking of time, obviously we're all trying to do our part to make this thing last, the shortest amount of time possible. Yet the studies that are still not finalized, but this is an official communication from the Baptist Health System, they're suggesting that the models that they're using are indicating that Miami-Dade County and South Florida in general are going to see a real surge in patients in the first week of May. So we're just starting April, and they're saying that the big surge will be in May. Any comments or ideas around that thought?
Yeah, I think I saw a projection from the federal government that said the same thing. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. The more we do this today and going forward, the less of a surge we're going to see. So it's just critical. I don't think we can worry about things that we can't control. What we control is the ability to stay home. And if we do that, the surge will be as minimal as possible.
Any other local stories? Because again, we want to talk about things that other people aren't going to be talking about. And in particular, anything going on with our congregations or our clergy that you've heard?
Yeah, well, I believe that a lot of the congregations are practicing their services electronically, like we're meeting today. And so I've heard no issues with them. I'm doing some updates with them as needed, and all seems to be working well. Everybody's really adapting to this in a unique way, right? We're going to find out through this in the next couple of weeks how we're going to live our lives going on in the future, and that's true for the religious institutions as well. And so no negatives there, all positives.
Yeah. Just want to finish up a little bit more nationally or internationally. I watch The Daily Show on a regular basis, and on Thursday night, they had Bill Gates on. And many of you probably have seen through social media that Bill Gates is very involved in trying to cure malaria around the world, and has really spent a good deal of his time understanding what epidemics and pandemics could do, and had a famous TED Talk in 2012. And so the conversation on Thursday night was really eye-opening. He's not panicking. He is saying that this is going to have a longer-term effect. And one of the things he was talking about is even after we flatten the curve and people can start to get back to normal, that international travel may take years to really recover from. And if you look at that and you say to yourself, and I'd love your take on this, maybe in the United States, we kind of get ourselves to numbers that show us only trending down. Well, how do you open up to the international community and potentially have that wave 2 or wave 3 come in? The other thing that he said, which to me is a little disheartening overall, is that sporting events are probably the last thing that we're going to see come back, where you can go to a football game or to a baseball game and watch it, because there's just too many people all in one place where, even one person could start a little epidemic again.
Yeah, that's really interesting, particularly in Miami, where we are an international city, and our economy is primarily based on tourism. And so these are the types of things that we're really going to need as a community to come together on as we start to pull out of this. And personally, I think what we need to do is find our peak, right? And as we get to our peak, we see that high spot, and we start to come down on the back side of it, and then start to put together the plans for how we lift these restrictions and come out of it. Remember, it's not going to happen the day the peak happens. We're not going to all walk outside. It's going to take a couple of weeks to get down to the bottom of that curve and reopen the doors. And when we reopen the doors, things are going to have to be different, right? Maybe we're not getting to as close to one another as we did in the past. And airline travel and restaurants and all types of these services that we provide are going to have to function differently. The encouraging thing is that these businesses are beginning to adapt right now. And, I think we'll leave it to the American ingenuity to figure out how we're going to thrive. But we're going to thrive because we always do. We're a bright group of people, and we will get through it.
Speaking of ingenuity, I've learned doing these Zoom conferences that I can put on a long sleeve shirt and look like a professional. I don't even want to ask you, but what's going on underneath the shirt there, Joe? You got anything on underneath? Are we doing this naked?
Underneath the shirt? No. I've got pants and a shirt on today, so that's a good sign. I can prove it to you. I'll stand up.
No. It's the levity of this, in that we need to find positive things that we can do. It makes me feel good that I can share with an audience of sorts and look professional, but still be nice and relaxed. And it looks like you are as well. As always, I appreciate what you're doing for our community. I know that you're at the ready with your phone, and we'll give you an opportunity to give that number. And then is there anybody that's called you and shared something with you from the rest of the community?
Oh, Hal, I got to tell you, when something like this or a hurricane happens, this job, which I used to laugh a little bit about as being sidewalks and peacocks, because we've got a great staff and great management, and it's Pinecrest. This job amps up to be a 24-hour a day job, and now we're on our third week of it. So yes, I get calls and emails, I don't know, hundreds a day, around the clock, and we respond to every one of them as immediately as possible. Minutes, no more than an hour or so goes by without a response. And we're always hunting something down and fixing whatever problems are out there. And it's a lot of work, let me tell you. It's a lot of fun too, but we're going to get through it. Well,
as a Pinecrest resident, hats off to everybody at the village that's doing what they're doing to make our lives as easy as possible. Thanks to the police for making sure that those that may not be following everything to the 100% level are going to start doing that. And we certainly thank you. Your phone number again, please, so that you can have 120 calls a day.
Anybody needs to call me, 305-606-2364. Call or text. We've got the resources to fix whatever problem you're having. We'll get out there and take care of it right away. Just don't be afraid to call. We got to know about it to act on it. And Hal, thanks for everything you do. This is a great forum to get the word out to the community. And you, as always, you're doing a great job. Thanks, and keep it up, man.
I appreciate it. Little golf clap for you, and we'll see you on the next edition of this. Unfortunately, there's going to be a few more ahead of us.
All right, we'll get through it. Thanks, guys. Stay at home.
Have a great day. All right. Yes, stay home and be kind to each other.
Be kind to each other. Thank you.